For all those who just joined us on YouTube, we're going to be talking about the tongue tonight and taming the tongue. And I'll go into it a little bit deeper here in just a minute, but I do want to share with you in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21, it says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." We're reminded in the chapter of wisdom that this has the power of speaking life and death into people, into our church, into our workplace, into our home, and everywhere else that our circle is. And so I want us to remember that as we go forward. Now, John Maxwell wrote a book talking about everybody communicates, but few connect. That is the truth. You can have the most wisdom of anybody in the room, but if you struggle to connect with people, they'll never hear your wisdom. You can be the best teacher of whatever you want to be teaching. And if you cannot connect with people, they'll never understand what you're teaching. Now, there's a reason that we don't connect with people. One of them is our attitude. Our attitude is often determined by our heartitude. That's a word I made up of my own. I figure if Tom Herman can do physicality, I can come up with my own words too. And that's heartitude. My attitude is determined by my heartitude. If my heartitude is right with the Lord, then my attitude will be right with His children. And He'll even give me the strength and compassion to take on those who aren't right. Those who have gotten off the rails a bit. And He will give you the patience and the calm to help them find the train tracks again and get back on the right path. But that's a heart thing. Long before I get to the mouth thing, I got to have the heart thing right. That's a Jesus thing. Because if He fills my heart, then from my heart, my mouth will speak. And so if my heart's right, my mouth will speak good things. Now, wait a minute. Can the mouth speak death even with the right heart? Absolutely. You can have the right heart and you need to speak death to somebody because what they're doing needs to die in that moment. That is not taught in the church today because we don't want to offend. But turn with me over in the book of Matthew, chapter 16. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. In chapter 16, verse 21. It says, "From the time Jesus began to show His disciples that He must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. And Peter took Him aside and began to rebuke Him, saying, 'Far be it from you, Lord, this shall never happen to you.' But what does it say here? But He, Jesus, but He turned to Peter and said, 'Get behind me, Satan.'" Wait a minute. He wasn't speaking life to Peter right there. That needed to die in that moment. "You are a hindrance to me. For you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man." I don't know about you, but that just alerted me to the fact that when people aren't doing things right, it's up to us to put a foot down and go, "Hey, the way you're thinking right now is of the devil. So get thee behind me because we're not going to put up with this. You're a hindrance to what we're trying to do. You're a hindrance to where we're going. You're a hindrance to the things that God has called us to." Now, that can be in your house. That can be in your workplace. That can be in your church house. Ooh. That can be in your circle of friends. I mean, this is Jesus, because we all like to think of him as kind and compassionate and calm. And so Peter took him aside. Lord, I need to talk to you. I love Peter's boldness, though. I'll give him that. Hey, Jesus, come here. Come here. You and I got to talk. And then he looks at him and goes, never you, never you, never. He's trying to be encouraging to him. He's literally trying to be encouraging to Jesus by telling him, that will never happen to you. And Jesus says, hey, dude, you're going to have to get behind me because you're acting like Satan right now. You're a hindrance to what's got to go on. Because you're not thinking what? You're not thinking godly, you're thinking manly. You're thinking about what you believe. You're not seeing the big picture. You're not seeing God's picture. You're seeing your picture. Now, if you'll turn over, that was the voice of Jesus speaking death to somebody who was a hindrance to the work of God. Now go all the way to Genesis. And I don't have to spend a lot of time in Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 3 for you to get it. That's funny. It's the first one in the book and the hardest one to get to. And we're going to begin in chapter 1. And I actually want to begin in verse, I wrote over the top of verse 3. It says, we back up to 2. It says, the earth was without form, and it was void, and darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. From his tongue he spoke life. Let there be light. From the tongue. He didn't think light, and it happened. He spoke it. And if you go a little further, verse 6, it said, and God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters. And then it goes to 7, and God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above it. Moving down to 9, it said, and God said, let the waters. So you get the picture here. We go all the way through this. God said, let there be. God said. And all the way through the Bible, through the Old Testament, when God addressed him, he says, God sent me to tell you his word. Or your God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob says. Did y'all ever get that as you read through the Bible? Yeah, he speaks all the time. He speaks through a prophetic word. He speaks things into existence. He speaks things out of your life. He speaks to demonic powers and they're vanished. The power is in the tongue. I love the fact that in 3, we're going to have a little more fun here. In chapter 3, it says, now the serpent. Don't immediately go, that's the devil. Because we don't know that here. It doesn't say that. And we don't even know, and again, because I guarantee you right now, you're thinking Eve is standing by that tree. Come on, work with me here. I want you to see this picture in your own mind. Eve is standing there by the tree, probably leaning against it, admiring all the trees and the beauty of the garden. And suddenly, there is this serpent beside her, crawling on a limb. And he gets within earshot of her, instead of striking and biting her face, he speaks. Have you met a snake yet that spoke to you? That's a good point. We don't give them a chance. I will hack the devil out of you. We don't give them a chance. I like the little 410 snake charmer. And they don't get a chance to speak. But think about it here. He speaks. He's not speaking life to Eve. He's speaking death to her spiritually. It says, now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, did God actually say? Now listen, this is the way the devil comes about things. This is the way Satan attacks. This is the way our friends attack us. This is the way everybody who wants to lead you off the path, this is the way they attack you. Did God actually say, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? Did God give you restrictions? What kind of God is that? What kind of loving God is that? That puts you in a garden with everything in it and it won't let you eat nothing. And you're going, well, wait a minute, I can eat everything in it but this one tree. Oh, it's the one tree. The one, you know why he won't let you eat it? I'll tell you why he won't let you eat it. Because when you do that, you'll be like him. And he don't want you being like him. He don't want you to be godly. Now, what is this son of a gun doing? He's doing the same thing your buddies did to you in high school when they talked you into that first beer party and you got home and got your tail kicked. Or you run off the road and the sheriff found you and took you home. Or if he wasn't as nice, he took you downtown and then called your dad. Yeah. Same kind of guys. Same kind of people. Same kind of serpent. But he was speaking spiritual death. So does your friend. So does your family sometimes. Ooh, this is a tough one here. Sometimes it's your family that speaks death to you. Well, I'm sorry, I can't help you this weekend. I got some stuff I got to do at the church house. Oh, there you go. If God really loved people, he'd have you out here helping your family instead of there where there's 40,000 other people that could help. I don't know about you. That's a guilt thing. And that's the way we get attacked. And you got to be prepared for that. You see, the power of life's in the tongue, the power of death's in the tongue. We're seeing it all, and you'll see this all throughout the Bible. I mean, God even sent somebody to help Moses because he was complaining about, my tongue's not right, I can't speak. Well, I'll send somebody to speak for you because you're going to do the job. So you can't argue with God. You can't get out of it. That's what I told my wife. I said, that son of a gun run off. He killed somebody and then run away. He still couldn't run from God. God fired up a bush. I mean, that was before propane. I mean, he just standing around there, there's a bush. I don't know about you, but I'm going to vacate the area if a bush just suddenly, combusts. But then the bush never was consumed. I'm looking at a fire here, and this bush ain't burning up. So you see, God can speak life from anywhere, through anyone and through anything. But then we have a little bit bigger problem, you and I. We can't be helped. There's no way around it. If you go over to James chapter 3, and all of you know where this is going, because you've been there before. James chapter 3. Now I'm going to tell you, this is James, and he's speaking here, and he goes a little further. He says, and we start in chapter 3, verse 1, says, not many of you should become teachers, my brothers. For you know that we who teach will be judged with greater strictness. For we all stumble in many ways, and if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he's a perfect man. So he's saying, you're going to stumble in what you say. Because we know we're not going to be perfect down here. I like what it also says. It says, if we put bits into the mouths of horses so that we can guide their whole body. It says, look at ships. Though they're large, they're driven by strong winds, and they're guided by a very small rudder. Wherever the will of the pilot directs, so also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. And it even compares it to a small fire that can cause a whole forest fire. Now, I'm going to bring that a little closer to home. The untamed tongue, the unbridled tongue, loose in the church, can burn a church down. The unbridled tongue, unloosed in a family, can separate and destroy a family. The unbridled tongue, let loose in the workplace, can cause you to have a new title, former employee. That's the truth, folks. Our job is to bridle this little thing in here and utilize it to speak life into people, and when needed and guided by the Lord, to speak death to a situation. That's the problem. Often we don't know the difference, so we just speak it. Because what do we speak like? We speak like Peter. We speak from what we know and what we've experienced and our wisdom as men and women. We speak from that. We don't speak from God. Now, here's a little insight. If you stay prayed up, it's a lot easier to bridle your tongue. But if prayer is not an active part of your life, your tongue is out of control. And I'm going to tell you, by the words that pour out of your mouth, by the words that spew out of your mouth, we can tell what kind of heart you got. You know that part where it says, by their fruits you shall know them? There you go. Because the fruit that you're spitting out of that mouth is rotten. Clean to the core. There's nothing sweet about it. It's sour, green, rotten fruit coming right out of your mouth, and it's coming from the abundance of the heart. And you go, well, I don't know how you can judge me. Keep talking. Keep going. This isn't hard. Have you ever seen them? How many of you ever watched those shows like The First 48 or what's the other one? CSI. You know? Have you ever watched how they do those guys? They get them talking. And after a while, they can't shut up. And what you do is you challenge their manhood. If it's a guy, you challenge his manhood. If it's a girl, you challenge her boyfriend. Oh yeah, he's in there right now. He's telling everything he knows about you. Oh, I got him. Let me tell you something about him. Hello? That's the way it works. Because they're speaking from the abundance of their heart. They wouldn't be sitting in there if their hearts were in the right place. That's not to say good people don't just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But when they go in there, it's real easy to tell. Because they speak from a different place. They're not worried. They're not upset. They're not anything. They speak from a different place. Because they know in whom they believe and where they stand. But when you're on the outside looking in and you're hoping for the best, you just, whatever flows out of your mouth. You know it. You've seen it. And then we bring that into the church house. We bring our street mouth into the church house. Now, there's a few people that can play church really well. And for the most part, they can turn on the church mouth. But when stress or a big situation or they're called to question, you can't fake it no more. You can't fake it no more. Because what's in your heart comes out. You know, some people, you've heard fake it till you make it. You've heard that? Anybody ever heard that in the workplace? Fake it till you make it. It's like, that's some of the poorest advice I've ever. I probably shouldn't tell this joke, but I'm going to tell it. No, this is a good place for it. It kind of goes with that. There was a turkey, and he was wandering around in just outside the pasture a little bit. And he come across a bull, and he says, you know, I'd like to fly up there in that tree someday, but I just don't have the energy. And the bull says, well, why don't you eat some of my droppings? Because it's full of energy. It's full of protein, full of energy. It'll help you. Turkey thought, can't hurt. Never tried that. So what's he do? Next day out, he eats a little bit of the bull's droppings. And he's able to fly to the first set of limbs. He's sitting up there and he goes, hey, this bull's pretty smart. So the next day he eats twice as much. And he makes it to the second set of limbs. Yeah, don't have a hard time eating that Thanksgiving turkey now, aren't you? That's the whole point. No. There is a turkey shortage now, you know why. However, he's now sitting on the second set of branches and he's living life. Yeah, look at here. So the next day he eats 3 times as much. And he gets all the way to the top. And he is sitting up there just proud as a pumpkin. And all of a sudden you hear, boom! Feathers, and he hits the ground. The farmer could finally see him and shot him graveyard dead. Now there's a moral behind this. All the BS in the world might get you to the top, but it won't keep you there. So that fake it till you make it stuff ain't going to work. I'm just telling you, you can't fake Jesus. You can't fake a walk with the Lord. I'm not laughing at my own joke, I promise you. I think Andrea just told him what the joke was so he could get it. And then he started laughing. And then that made me laugh. I'm going, this guy's a hunter. Oh, is that what it was? Okay. However, you can't fake Jesus in your life. I don't care what you think or what you want to do. You can't fake it. You can come into a church house and you can get lost in the shuffle in the crowd. But if you get in there very deep in the church house, everybody and their dogs is going to know what's in your heart. It don't take long. And I'm going to tell you what happens. Those that are trying to follow after God's picture, after a while, they tune you out. When I was a kid playing baseball, my parents taught me to tune out the crowd. And then as I grew older and older, they taught me to tune out everything. So it's almost like you're deaf at the plate. You don't hear nothing. Because everything is just background noise. And I'm going to tell you, when you get focused upon God and His direction, His will in your life, everything else becomes background noise. And so the smartest people in the world can be feeding you, and you will never hear them unless God opens the door of your focus for them to speak into it. And I make no apologies for that. That's not by my design, that's God's design. You know why He designs us to be focused on the will that He has before us? So that people like Peter in his own walk don't show up and go, hey, come here. Let me get you straight, preacher. Because that's what Peter did to him. I mean, Peter is talking to the ultimate, the Messiah. And he's going to call him aside and get him corrected. I mean, think of the hair he must have had on his chest. Just to believe he could do that. Yeah. Come here, Jesus. I gotta talk with you. I'm sure Jesus was walking up there going, I can't wait to hear this. Yeah. You know, it's funny. When we read stuff like this in the Bible, we glaze right over it. I mean, we glaze right over that. I guarantee you half of you never seen that as Peter calling Jesus aside. Because we glaze over the Bible. We glaze over the teachings, the important stuff. That's what happens to us in the country in which we live. They feed us whatever they want us to eat, and we just glaze right over and keep going. Why? Because we can still afford to pay for gas at the pump. Because we can still afford to go out and eat every once in a while when we want to. We can still afford to buy groceries. But I'm going to tell you, some of you will stand up and take notice all of a sudden when your church is shut down because the government says, you know what, we don't agree with the church anymore. Some of you will stand up and notice, and then it's too late to get in the fight. Because they've already delivered the knockout punch. Some of you will get in the fight when you stand in line for groceries because you have so many chits you can spend. because the government has decided, we're going to rob from Peter to pay Paul, or we're going to use the Robin Hood tactic called socialism, which never works. And so everybody gets the same amount of chits to go to the store and buy groceries with, and you're standing in line for hours to spend them. And then because nobody can do anything, guess what? You thought COVID killed the supply chain? Wait till socialism gets done with it. You won't have anything in the grocery store. So if you ain't first in line, you ain't going to see much. I'm just telling you, folks, I'm giving you the cold, hard facts. And if you don't wake up to them as American people, you darn well better do it as the church people. Because I'm going to tell you right now, America is sleeping through this. Well, literally. And I don't care. We got just as many corrupt Republicans as we do Democrats. And they're all destroying the country. And these are the people that are supposed to be smart, and they're dumber than a bag of hammers. I mean, they are. They have no common sense. They may have all the book learning in the world. They may be good speakers, but they're dumber than a bag of hammers. I mean, listen when I say this. He is our president. And our job is to support him and pray for him while he is our president, whether we like him or not. But have you heard him speak lately? I mean, he literally is telling you that the inflation is okay. It's all right. It's in good shape. I'd rather talk to you about abortions because the inflation is okay. And 40% of Americans are saying inflation is the biggest thing they face in these midterm elections. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure his subway has come into the station. Now you go, preacher, you're getting political here. No, I'm just telling you the cold, hard truths of the country you live in. And if God-fearing, good people don't stand up and say, enough is enough, it won't be long till you'll have no way to say it. Because your voice will be taken from you. Your religion will be taken from you, and if they have their way, your guns will be taken. You'll have no power in which to do anything other than listen and do what you're told. And if they can't get it with your generation, guess what? We'll start teaching it in school. We'll get it from another generation. I mean, look at some of the stuff being taught today, folks. I just want you to see it. But I want you to know more than that. You got to know how to use this to speak life. You got to speak life back into your country. You got to speak life. Here, let's start small. I don't want to overwhelm you. We got to speak life back into our churches. Thank all three of you. Look, folks, I'm as serious as a crack in an airplane wing. We have got to speak life back into our churches. We have to speak life back into the people that make up the church. They can no longer sleep through church. They can no longer sleep through the weeks and days and months that come. They have to wake up. The voices have to be heard. We have to stand. We have to make ourselves heard. We have to be a force for good in the midst of evil. Because if you're not, evil will overtake you. And we can sit around all we want to and say the same thing, because I've been guilty of this myself. Well, I'm just waiting on the resurrection. I'm just waiting on the rapture. Because when the rapture gets here, I'm going to miss all that other stuff. Wait a minute. I'm going to tell you what God says about that. I'm disappointed in you, preacher, because maybe you're going to make it, but there's a lot of people that aren't. Get busy. My job is not, you're there. Now go get the rest. Well, it's not up to me to go get. Yes, it is. Well, I can't save anybody. I didn't say you could. Go plant seeds. Go plant seeds. Go make a difference. Go show the love of Christ in somebody's life. Be a difference maker. Be a difference maker. And let me tell you how small it can start. How many of you went through a drive-through in the last week? You went through some drive-through something. Oh, come on, people. 3 people went through a drive-through. 4 people. 5. All right, now we're starting to get the truth out. I don't care where it was. It might have been the bank. But you went through, oh yeah, there we go, see? All right, we got the bank. How about a savings and loan? Okay, you went through a drive-through. You went through a checkout counter at H-E-B or Walmart or someplace. Yeah, okay. It can be something as simple as, hey, you know what? You did a great job taking that order. I've never had anybody so kind on the other end of that speaker box out there. Thank you. Thank you for being kind. Something that simple makes a difference in somebody's life. My favorite one to do is, hey, is your manager on duty? Because they get nervous right off the bat. As soon as their manager gets there, I go, hey, I don't know what you're paying them, but you need to double it. Because you can't afford to lose employees like that, because the rest of them are going to run your business off. You need that employee. You need 3 or 4 more like him. So if he's got brothers or sisters, you need to bring them in. I mean, I want to make a difference in somebody's life. And I want the manager to know that. And I love managers. They're always so kind. Oh, there's a survey at the bottom of your... I'm not taking no survey. That's your job. I just told you they're the best employee you got. Now help them. It's not my job to call your manager someplace or some hotline somewhere and see if I can get $5 off by telling them, Trayvon was a great employee. That's your job. Jeez, oh, Pete, do your job. Honestly. Lady come to me the other day and says, I'm standing in line at H-E-B. She says, would you like to use this self-check? No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. If I wanted to use a self-check, I'd have went down there. I just said, no, thank you. I was kind. I just said, no, thank you. And she goes, but there's nobody in line. I said, that's okay. And she goes, you'd rather stand in line? I said, you see that young lady right there behind the cash register? If everybody goes down there, pretty soon she won't be working. And I'm going to tell you right now, if she's not working, you don't have a job walking back and forth along this counter going, would you like to go down here? Would you like to move over there? Because eventually, there's not going to be anywhere to go but there, and you won't have a job. We don't understand. Go into your bank now. What do they tell you? Would you like to use the automated teller? No, I would not. I want to talk to somebody. I want to know who makes a mistake. I don't want to blame it on machine 347. I want to blame it on Janelle. Honestly, I literally said that in the bank the other day. It's like, no, I don't. You see where we're going in this country? Nobody wants to do anything. They just want to send you off to something that's automated. And they're telling you it's more convenient for you. No, it's not. Because if you don't remember a password or a number or something, it no longer is convenient. And I don't know about you, but there was a point when I was here and I was at Lockheed and I had more passwords than I knew what to do with. Yeah, that's where I kept them. And guess what? I forget the password to the phone. I can't get to any of them. And then, don't be a smart aleck and go, well, you can use your thumbprint. Because you know what? If you do any kind of work with your hands, that thumbprint cannot work sometimes. Just try that in concrete and then go give them a thumbprint. Guy goes, hey, your thumbprint's really weird. A lot of brick bath acid will take them things right off there. And you go, what's all this got to do with where we're going? Folks, I'm telling you, the world we're in today is messed up. We've gotten lazy. We've gotten complacent. We've gotten blind. We just march in and do whatever our leadership tells us. And then we elect, nuts, and then trust them to lead us. And we've taken the power out of the classroom. You know what? Put the power back in them teachers' hands. If Miss Teresa Schrader was here, I'd tell you, that lady busted my butt at least 3 or 4 times in my 6 years with her. And every one of them I deserved, and a few she let me off on. I deserved every one of them. And I knew when I got home to go on and tell my dad that Miss Schrader had to bust my tail today. Because he was going to be so embarrassed that she had to do that he's going to take care of it one more time to make sure she don't have to again for a while. Now that's unheard of today. Because if a teacher spanked the kid, the parent would be up there suing the school, and the school district would roll over and fire the teacher. Back in that day, they'd go, well, you need to get little Johnny under control. Take him home, put your own belt to his seat then, or we're going to keep doing it. It was that simple. But now, guess what? Because of the government, the schools are so scared to do anything, and the churches is following suit. We're following suit. And it won't be long till the government will have everybody backed into a corner, doing exactly what they want them to do and how they want them to do it. And when you get the public to lay down, and they have no power, and they're not armed, and guess what? They're ripe for the picking. Wake up. Wake up as Americans, and wake up as Christians. Because you have a double responsibility. Not just as Americans, because guess what, folks? You may not believe this, but we are still the center of democracy in a world that is out of control. We're the best. Why do you think people are coming to this country in groves? Because this is still the best place they can go of any place else. So we have a responsibility not just to the American people, but to the world, to maintain democracy among ourselves. And guess what? They're already persecuting Christians in other countries. We still have the right to religious freedom. And we better hang on to it, because so goes us, so goes the rest of the world. Wake up, church. Man, I wasn't even ready to preach this tonight. I got completely off on Sundays. Golly, that was terrible. So let me get back to yours tonight. Hey, if you can't shut your mouth, grab your tongue and hold on to it. Because you can't, don't bite it. For goodness sakes, you get an infection in there and you'll think problem. Just grab it and hold on to it. When I was a little kid, my grandma wasn't, she was a kind woman right up to a point. Right up to a point. And it was a small point. So she would do little things like, stick your tongue out. Get over here and stick that tongue out. And she'd hang a clothespin on the end of it. Don't you take that off. You walk around that clothespin. That's the way. We didn't get the soap in the mouth, because she wasn't going to waste good soap. But that clothespin stay there, and you'd have a square on the end of your tongue, top and bottom, blood, where it come there. Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, we got so callous to that, we'd sit around and put it on our tongue just playing around. People go, what are you doing? Hey, my tongue's numb on the end. But that's the way she taught us to watch what we said to each other. And you certainly didn't talk back to them. But that's the way we learned. We got clothespins on the end of our tongue. Now today, they'd have taken us all up to CPS and put us in another house where they could have abused us but good. Honestly. That's how warped we are in the country today. That wasn't abuse. That was one of the best teaching tools in the world. Absolutely. We didn't know what timeout was. Timeout happened in baseball and football. My dad didn't understand timeout. Not in discipline. He said, when I get done with him, he'll need some time out. But that's the way he was. I mean, just no way around it. Many of your parents were probably the same way. And I thank God for that. I do. Because it made me who I am today. I'm not warped. I don't want to go kill. I don't want to go shoot up nothing. It didn't warp me. It made me the man I am today because I learned that there was right and there was wrong and there was a line and you didn't cross it. And if you did, there was consequences. And that's a problem in the world we live in today. There's no consequences for anything. And then on top of that, there's no personal responsibility for anything. Take ownership. You make a mistake. Mistakes aren't bad. Own up to it and move on. Mistakes aren't bad. That's just another way to learn. But own them. I guarantee you, the funniest thing I've ever seen is you let something be great, somebody accomplish something great, and they will own it. You don't even have to ask who it was. Yeah, that was me. Yep, all me. You're lucky to have me. You let it go bad, you know what? Yes. If I hadn't had so much help from this person over here, I mean, they literally took me off track. Now suddenly it became their fault because you went stupid on this project. Has nothing to do with that, folks. Personal accountability. I was great on one, I'm bad on another. You know what? You can't be good at everything. Own your weaknesses. Work at getting them better. Own your strengths. Use it all for the Lord because He'll make your weaknesses your strengths. He'll make your strengths even stronger. Use them for the Lord. Tame your tongue. Guess what? We're on your side. I want you to look at me close. I want you to look at the people around you close. We're all Christian people. We're all members of the Maxdale Cowboy Church. We're all your family here. We're on your side. Ease up a little bit. Because I'm going to tell you, if I talk nasty to my wife, I better sniff my dinner. If it tastes funny, I better not eat it. Just saying. Think about it. If you talk nasty to your mate, you're snippy with them, you cut them off, what can you expect a recourse to be? The same. If they even pay attention to you. Now, my wife's got to where she don't even listen to me. Saves us both, so I learned to stop talking. So now we don't have to worry about it. She don't have to hear it, and I don't have to say it. We just look at each other. I'm like, I can't believe that. And she's like, you're an idiot. And we get all that just from looking. So, saves a lot of effort. However, if I talk wrong to her, I don't just pay a price with her, I pay a price with God because He convicts my heart the way I spoke to her. And He does the same thing with people in the church, with people in work or any place else that I have to be. If I speak abruptly or I speak snippy or I speak short to somebody, God will convict my spirit immediately. A lot of times you'll see me go, hey, wait. That didn't come across right. I want you to know. I'm thinking, I got 1,000 thoughts on my mind and I just shot that out there, but it's not personal. I'm not shooting at you. It's just fired right off my tongue. He's literally convicted me that quick. And He's convicted me on a ride home before where it's like, when you get back there, you see them on Sunday, you need to corner them and apologize. Don't let them get away. And if you know their number, call now. Don't let it fester. Don't let it settle. Call now. And that's what we have to do. We're brothers and sisters in Christ. And sometimes, guess what? Don't send a text. Because you cannot understand expression in a text. I don't care if you put caps and happy faces or you put mad faces or faces with tears. I could care less about all that. I don't understand your position in text. And you don't understand mine, but when I pick up the phone and go, hey, you know what? I am really, really sorry. You hear my voice. You hear it. You know my emotion. You know what I'm feeling. You don't pick that up in a text, folks. That's a cowardly way to address somebody. And it's also a lackluster way to apologize. It's a great tool when used properly and for the right thing. To send a quick message to somebody so you don't have to try to call, that's one thing. But not to apologize. Not to work out differences. You don't work out your differences in a text message. You didn't get in a fight over a text message. Honestly. I'm going to close with this. If you're here today and you're married, did you ask your wife to marry you via text message? Not back then. Hey, that's a good point. Did you ask your wife to marry you via text message? I think not. Did you call on the phone and go, hey, you know what? If you ain't doing anything better and you ain't got another boyfriend, would you marry me? You didn't do that, did you? I guarantee you had some kind of little plan going on. No? I'm not going. Everybody catch them right after church and let her share that story. Mine wasn't big or formal neither, honestly. Mine was in a parking lot going to a George Strait concert. And I didn't hardly get it out of my mouth. Yes, okay, good. We're done with that. So, boy, she only knew what she was getting. I told her that the other night. I said, baby, I really feel sorry for you. I do. I said, because you had no way of knowing what you was getting. Because I was wrapped up in brown paper. You couldn't see the package. And you kind of like that box on Let's Make a Deal. You bought that blindly. And but honestly, there's all kinds of ways. But I didn't do it via the telephone. I didn't do it via text message. And I didn't do it any of those ways. I was at least looking at her when I said it so she could hear me. And so anything you're going to do, that's the best way to do it. I know we're in the age of technology and there's a lot of things you can do. But I don't send God a text for my prayer. I get down on my knees and I still converse with God. And He gave me a lot of important people in my life. They start with my wife, my 2 girls, my kids, my extended family, my church family. Those are all important people. So if I'm not gonna send a text to God, I'm not gonna, to touch base with you and go, hey, I'm going here to do this. Do you need anything? That's one thing. But I'm not gonna. If I got to have a conversation with you, in all seriousness, I'm not going to text you for a deep conversation. I started one time, got about 4 lines in it and went, nah. We're just calling. We'll be here all night doing this because I'm a one-finger typer. That being said, in this day and age, not only do we have to tame our tongue, we have to tame our finger. Tame your finger, tame your tongue. Because anything you speak on comes from the abundance of the heart. And I'm going to tell you right now, we know your heart. So be kind, be nice. Because as my old friend used to say, Jesus don't like ugly. And He doesn't. Any comments, questions about tonight? And I've got to come up with a whole different sermon on Sunday because I preached most of it here tonight. I couldn't hold back. It just would come out. All right. Well, if you would, stand with me so we can prepare to dismiss.